talk about the art of fundraising, and it's really learning to speak the investor's language. So I don't know how many of you have actually been fundraising and talking to investors. One of the most important things that I see is many startup entrepreneurs come to me and they say they want to see real investors, or they're not getting there, or the investors don't really understand what the pitch deck is about, and they don't understand technology or whatsoever. And I think it's actually the other way around. If the investor doesn't understand your pitch deck, you have to learn to speak the investor's language. So what question do you have to ask? What is it that you have to ask yourself that has gone wrong? And what is it that the investor wants to hear? And the investor is actually a very simple animal. The investor wants to know, how much do I have to invest? Where does my investment go to? And when will I get it back? The combination of this information will equal return on investment. That's what it is to an investor. That's all they're interested to know. So I'm going to take you through the 8 questions or topics that you need to answer anytime you're pitching to investors. The first thing, very clearly, and it doesn't really matter whether you're building a hardware or software, you need to clearly say what is your unit cost of products. You're asking me to share my slides. Are my slides not being shared? So I should carry on because I'm not sure, but I can see my slides. The unit cost of your product, it doesn't matter whether it's a hardware or a software, you need to have a basic cost, whether it's a pen. So you know that it's going to cost €2, or let's say €5 at this minute. And €5 at this minute could mean that you're only going to produce 100. And when you get to produce 1,000, of course, this cost will drop to €2. But at this minute, it's €5. Share this, and you can always say when we increase production, it will go down to €2. But there's always a starting point, and that starting point is really, really important that you're clear about it. Don't talk about, oh, well, when we get to 1,000,000. No, where you are at this minute is when you're fundraising, and that is the cost of your product. And for software, it's the break-even point cost. So you may be selling to a first 100 clients and divide your cost of producing that by the 100 clients, and that will be your product cost. The next important, simple number is the cost of acquisition of your client. What does it cost you to get one client? In one of the softwares that I sell, it costs anywhere from 750 to €1,000. It's a B2B, it's hard to get to clients, and the sales cycle is very high. So it could take anything from 3 months to 9 months for a customer to sign a contract, and we may need to pay commissions and introduction fees to different people. So although the cost is high, it becomes irrelevant, because then we look at how much we're making from that client. And that is where we come to lifetime value. When you sell to a client, regardless of what you're selling, usually that client stays with you for a period of time, particularly in software. So for example, if you're selling your software at €50 per month and your cost of acquisition of the client was €1,000, however, if that client stays with you for 10 years, €50 per month is equivalent to €600 per year, and 10 years is €6,000. That is your lifetime value. Even if you're selling a pencil is something that has a life, and the user will need to buy it again and again and again. How many times will a user need a pencil in his life? Whether it's any type of product, it will most probably have an end of life, and recurring purchases. So that lifetime value is very important in order for the investor to make that very first simple calculation. What is my profit margin? Unit cost of products, cost of client acquisition, and lifetime value. Those three initial numbers will give the investor the most important, the profit margin. You need to next address the small question of who you can sell to. It's fine when you get marketing money and you can sell, I can sell it to this person and we'll go on Facebook and we'll do Google advertising. But before you do all of that, if you're unable to sell it to your own local market, to your own local network, then you need to think again. All entrepreneurs, all CEOs should be focused on sales. Your sales is your first and foremost important part of your job. You need to be selling before you even start creating your product. And the most important thing I need to know as an investor is how many people you can sell to. Because if you can tell me that you know 10 groups and in those 10 groups you can sell to 9 of them, then I will think, okay, with you, if you can sell to 10 and I have a bigger network, I can take you to the director of this place, to the director of that place, and I can sell to 1,000 people more. And then we'll talk about taking you to the next level. But the most important is, first of all, tell me how many people you can sell that to. Because at the end of the day, you're worth nothing unless you can sell. Your product, even if it's gold, it's worth nothing if you haven't sold a single unit. So your local market, your local network, and how many you can sell to is the next important thing you need to answer to any investor. And I say this in this particular order because as you're pitching, the investor is thinking in his mind. You've given him the cost of the product. Now you've given him the profit margin. He's calculated the profit margin. He thinks, okay, you're going to make this for €2 and you're going to sell it at €5. So profit margin is 3. If you can sell this to 100 people, you've already made €300. And if I give you another €1,000 and you can sell this to another 1,000 people, that's equivalent to €3,000. That's how the investor is thinking as you're talking. Only after you have addressed your local market, you then need to go into, before going into the bigger picture, into next set of simpler numbers. The number of clients above your local market and only just above your local market. And give real numbers. Here, forget the SAM. Tell me, in the whole world population, if there are 7 billion people, tell me that only 1 billion people will only ever buy your product. And from that 1 billion people, only 6 million people are really an addressable client because they are the only ones you can sell to. They're the only ones that have money. Of that, 6 million people, 60% are women, 40% are men. And of that 6 million people, 32,000 live in your country and 32,000 are female and 27,000 are male. Give simple numbers. Break it down and break it down as much as you can to decent numbers, where you get those numbers from, why you get those numbers, and that makes it comprehensible. That makes it believable and credible. Too many times I see such big numbers that I think, where on earth do you get these numbers from? Only after you have broken these numbers down can you go to the next part, because these numbers are the ones that I can decide, okay, 32,000, let's assume we're in Spain and that is the market that is achievable in Spain. And we started with you selling to 100, me selling to 1,000. Now, getting to 32,000 is not difficult. It's achievable. And I think, okay, with a few of other venture capitals, with a few of other people, with some money poured into a business development manager or a marketing campaign, we can achieve a good amount of that 32K and then move up to the next level of the 6 million people and work out step by step how we're going to get there. These simple numbers allow me to calculate how to get there. Only once you've told these can you really go into your TAM SAM, which is, okay, now 400 million or 4 billion and the big numbers that you're talking about, because then I will be able to see, okay, it's a big enough market for everybody to earn some money in, and we can get part of this market, and only a small percentage of this market will give us good revenue. But if you give me big numbers of 400 million, 500 million, or a couple of billion, they're meaningless. And those meaningless makes it incredible, unbelievable, unachievable. And that is where most people fail. Because when I stop being able to calculate how you get to those numbers, that's when I lose interest. That's when I disconnect as an investor from your pitch deck. Finally, we come to the questions of how much, where, and when. Because now you've told me everything of the numbers, what it costs to produce the product, what it costs to get a client, what is the profit margin, how many you can sell to. And now you tell me you want 1,000, 100,000, or €1,000,000. And then I can decide, okay, with that, we can achieve so much. If we put so much of it into marketing, it will give us so much back. And I know and I understand that we need to put some into product development in order to improve the product and in order to produce a better user experience or whatever is required. Finally, but not least, all of this is impossible without a good story. All of this needs to be wrapped in a simple story that is story. If you tell me all of this in one slide after another, it has no meaning. The most important thing is to build a story around it and to tell a story about you, how you came about this idea, why you started it. And remember, investors invest in you. So I want to know why you. I want to know why you're going to be able to do it, how you're going to be able to do it, what your credentials are, and that you're the right person to make this successful. Once I've connected to you, then I will believe the rest of your pitch. So this is it from me. Is your pitch deck not bringing you investment? And most probably, it's because you're not speaking the investor's language. If you want to learn to speak the investor's language, I've given you the 8 major points of how to speak the investor's language. I will share my slides later on with the team here, and you can connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can book a session with me free on Calendly, and you can visit my website, aliparanda.com. I'd be more than happy to help you. I've helped over 1,000 startups fix their pitch deck and successfully raise numerous rounds. I work primarily with early stage to mid-stage startups where they're just before pre-scaling, and we have raised successfully several million rounds. Thank you from me. If you have any questions, I'm not sure if there are any questions from the audience at this minute, because I can't see the commentarios comments here. What's the best approach to showing disagreements? These are older ones. Investors language, can I explain a little bit more? Investors language is really, if I tell you, is you have to put yourself in the shoe of the investor. Put 1,000 euros in your pocket, put 100,000 euros in your pocket, and put yourself in the place of the investor and listen to that pitch and say, if it was your money, would you invest it? And start calculating whether that investment is a safe investment or not. Because different investors, different business angels have different criteria. So if you're pitching to somebody who's 50 years old, they may have a very different criteria to somebody who's 70 or 80 even years old. Somebody who's 80 years old may not even think of investing for 5 to 10 years, whereas somebody who's uh, maybe 40 or 50 years old would be more than happy to put a large sum of money and wait 5, 10, or even 15 years. So investors language is putting yourself into the shoe of the investor and understanding how they think, whether they would invest in your company or not. Okay, well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed sharing my experience with you. If you want to learn more, you can always book a session with me, and I will be more than happy to help you. Thank you again for having me today, and it's been lovely sharing my experience.